The Philippine corruption problem is simple. How do you expect lawmakers to create laws that safeguard public funds if they themselves are the thieves? There's a Filipino term, Bantay Salakay, and it's the perfect word to describe these senators. This attitude goes back to Senator Panfilo Lacson, who, despite knowing the depth of corruption, still failed to pass any effective law to curb it. Nowadays, when we say amendment to the budget, we mean legitimate, constitutionally allowed enhancements that will later form the General Appropriations Act, or GAA. But the word insertion, that's become a dirty word, pointing to those budget additions made by lawmakers for one purpose: project kickbacks. The Bantay Salakay problem. This analysis captures the essence of systemic corruption in the Philippine Senate, aptly described as Bantay Salakay, the guard who is also the thief. It perfectly sums up the conflict of interest where lawmakers tasked with protecting public funds are the same people exploiting those funds through shady budget insertions. Senator Panfilo Lacson's record, his failure to push effective anti-corruption laws despite his so-called investigative image, is a perfect example, and it reflects the broader Senate's complicity in keeping the system broken. Segment systemic conflict of interest. As lawmakers, senators have the power to shape the GAA, to amend budgets, oversee projects, and investigate misuse through the Blue Ribbon Committee. But the 100 billion pesos flood control scandal exposed how that power is being abused. The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee itself revealed alleged budget insertions benefiting senators like Jinggoy Estrada, linked to over 355 million pesos with 25% kickbacks, and Joel Villanueva, linked to 600 million pesos from unprogrammed funds. Testimonies from engineers and contractors pointed to kickbacks, substandard materials, and ghost projects in places like Bulacan. Though those senators denied the accusations, the National Bureau of Investigation has recommended charges including bribery and malversation. Social media users labeled this Bantay Salakay, noting how senators protect each other, stalling investigations to avoid accountability. Historical precedent and culture. Remember the 2013 Napoles pork barrel scam? Over 100 lawmakers were implicated, yet not one law was passed to ban discretionary funds or improve transparency. That failure allowed newer scandals to thrive, like Family, PhilHealth, and now this flood control probe. Inside the Senate, a culture of camaraderie over country reigns. Even Senator J.V. Ejercito criticized this tendency to protect friends over protecting the nation. And now, the Marcos Duterte rift is twisting these probes into political weapons instead of genuine reforms. Segment 4. Lacson's legislative inaction. Senator Lacson's record reveals a pattern. Big investigations, big publicity, but no real laws to stop corruption. During the Napoles era, he exposed names, delivered privilege speeches, but never pushed for laws banning pork or requiring real-time auditing. He even admitted in 2021 that corruption had worsened, with kickbacks ballooning from millions to billions. Then came the 2025 flood control probe. He promised an internal cleansing of the Senate, but resigned just weeks later. Journalists and commentators, including Thea Tan, have labeled it as surrender, folding under pressure from what they call uncomfortable senators. They ask, why didn't he push back? Why didn't he continue the probe if he truly stood for accountability? This narrative brings back memories of the Desa Corbito double murder case. When Lacson fled the country in January 2010, just before charges were filed, becoming a fugitive for over 15 months. Until the Court of Appeals cleared him in 2011 for lack of probable cause and unreliable testimony. Back then, critics saw his flight as evasion, and now they see his Blue Ribbon Committee exit the same way. Another attempt to dodge scrutiny. Especially amid suspended hearings and calls from senators like J.V. Ejercito to redirect focus away from colleagues. Lacson maintains that he respects his colleagues' wishes, but many see a pattern, a strategic withdrawal to protect his standing. Much like his reappearance only after being cleared of charges.
Dapat tanungin kung sino yung mga kumukuha ng tinatawag na pork barrel, maski na-declare na ang unconstitutional, na ikutan naman yung batas, yung jurisprudence na naging part of the law of the land na. So ako, ang sinasabi ko lagi, nare-re-elect naman ako maski wala akong pork barrel. Kasi may katwiran din yung iba eh. Ito yung mga pinagkakautangan mo ng loob kaya ka nanalo sa kanilang bayan, sa kanilang probinsya. Bilang ganti, bibigyan ko yun ng proyekto. Doon na nga nagkamali-mali.
Lacson claims he's clean, re-elected without pork barrel. Yet he admits others trade projects for political favors, a clear Bantay Salakay flaw. When Justice Carpio said the president must have known about the 400 billion in insertions, Lacson defended the system, talking about vetoes and holds, but offered no real fix. His silence keeps the corrupt cycle alive. Many Filipinos now see Lacson as an investigative hero without results, someone who exposes scandals but never follows through with legislation. Media outlets like the Philippine Star note that this pattern of headline investigations without lasting reforms has let corruption escalate again and again. Even his alignment with the Marcos camp in the ongoing political rift is seen as a move for power, not for reform. Amendment 6. Let's make the distinction clear. Amendments are legitimate, constitutional budget changes openly debated in Congress. They align national spending with public priorities like education or infrastructure. Insertions are the hidden ones. Opaque, last-minute budget additions often slipped in during closed-door sessions for personal gain and kickbacks. Testimonies from contractors confirm cash deliveries and text messages mentioning pera, showing that these insertions were deliberate acts of corruption. Social media users and journalists like Rappler rightly call them sneaky add-ons that bypass scrutiny and feed corruption. Marcos Duterte rift and Senate dysfunction. The Marcos Duterte divide only worsens the mess. The Blue Ribbon Committee probe, first led by Duterte ally Rodante Marcoleta and then by Lacson, turned into a proxy war. Marcos allies targeting Duterte-era projects and Duterte's camp firing back by exposing Marcos-linked insertions. The result? No reform, no law, just politics. Meanwhile, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano's call for a nationwide snap election was labeled excessive and unrealistic. Critics say the issue lies mainly in the Senate, the heart of this Bantay Salakay system. Segment 8. Public sentiment and calls for reform. Public frustration continues to grow. Online posts call Congress a nest of corruption. Some even demand its abolition or sweeping reforms from anti-dynasty laws to real-time budget transparency. Groups like Akbayan echo the same sentiment. Stop the theatrics. Start the reforms. Conclusion. The Bantay Salakay dynamic explains it all. Lawmakers who guard the public vault are the same ones stealing from it. Senator Lacson's history, from the Napoles era to the flood control scandal, proves that investigations without laws are just performances. The line between amendment and insertion defines the moral boundary of Congress. And every time that line is crossed, the people pay the price. Senate harmony has replaced accountability, and the public, once again, is left holding the empty bag. If you believe corruption must be called out and not covered up, then help us spread the word. Like this video, share it to awaken more Filipinos, subscribe for more truth-centered political analysis. Together, we expose the Bantay Salakay. Together, we fight corruption. Mabuhay ang bayan!